Being joined by Koketso Moloko, who is the spokesperson of the Alliance for Citizens of Change. And of course, Prof still continues to be with us during all these discussions. Koketso, thank you so much for your time and for joining us. Now, you are representing the minority parties that are calling for a re-vote. Can you just take us through how many political parties there are that have come together and what exactly are your objections on?
So far, it's 26 parties that have an issue with this, but other parties have actually raised this as a problem. I think what we have is a discrepancy that has arisen from the voting districts versus what was actually captured in the system. So, the IEC needs to take this very, very seriously because, obviously at the voting district level, the various party agents were there. Some of them did recounts, some of them up to 3 recounts, to make sure that they've counted all of the ballots, national, and the other 2 ballots. But the biggest problem then came when it came to the capturing of it, And I heard the IEC chairperson allude to the fact that, Grant Thornton, who are the auditors, have access to their system. But the issue now comes to say, does Grant Thornton, are they physically present there when these are captured? Because having access to a system where you can see live capturing is not the same as when you are physically there, because they're moving almost from a paper-based system and capturing this thing. So what Grant Thornton presumably would see on their end is what's being captured by that person. But who is there to check if there's a discrepancy between someone reading 600 votes for Party A and someone capturing 60 votes, And I think this is sort of the weaknesses that they have in their system, right? And they shouldn't, rush to sort of take this thing as something light because it speaks to their systems. He also mentioned issues around and the fact that they've got obviously Grant Thornton as their auditors, but they try to do it as soon as possible as per the Constitution. But I think the people who drafted our Constitution deliberately left it to say as soon, do it as soon as possible. But they didn't put a set time on it because they knew how people need to be meticulous in how they capture things. Every vote counts. So if you don't capture something correctly, you actually disenfranchising not only the voter, but you also, then disenfranchise South Africans from knowing did we have a high turnout or a low turnout. I know one of the concerns that were raised by many people who were like wondering to say, we've got such long queues. How is it that we can have a 58% turnout? But if the information is incorrectly captured on the end of the IEC, it will obviously even go to, affecting the voter turnout. Because if you had, 500 voters in this district, but they only captured 250, it does affect the overall turnout. And, I heard some political party leaders earlier on saying that it's not material to the outcome. I actually find that to be very flawed because you
would also appreciate, Koketso, that in some voting districts, people only came out in the evening. So when we attributed those long queues, it could just be that people were coming in very late in the evening as opposed to coming in the morning. I just want us really to, because, to call for a re-vote is quite extensive. How dire are these objections that you're making? Just give us some of the examples, not only of your party, but some of the other parties in terms of how extensive these objections are, and really can they turn the results around?
Yeah, I think we do know that resources are a constraint in this country, right? So I think what the parties are calling for is that before you escalate it to the point of a re-vote, because now that means gazetting additional elections and all those things, it's quite involved, right? So what they're simply saying is just go back to what was captured at the various voting districts, the 23,000 voting districts that are there. Check what was captured and check that does it correlate to what is on the IEC system. If you find a discrepancy, and you've meticulously checked. As you said, they've got their auditors, they've checked line by line. But their auditors have only checked what has been captured by the IEC. They haven't actually taken the like-for-like voting result slips that we've seen, which were then, completed when the voting was done at the stations. Some as early as 9 a.m. Some people only finished voting at 9 a.m. the following day, right? So when those people finish voting, party agents were happy. People left and said, okay, we've agreed, these are the numbers. We are fine with that. The difficulty now that has arisen is the fact that when they left, what was then captured on the system is different from what they saw when they were there. So people are flagging that, and it's a legitimate concern. And as someone who wants to be very, thorough with this election, because we are talking about a situation where we're electing officials for the next 5 years. These people are this is gonna decide which MPs we send to serve in our National Assembly. So it's not something we should take lightly and say, we're just gonna rush this process. People are just asking to say, just let's go back, check the voting slips for the 23,000 voting districts, check if it actually correlates to what was captured by them, because people could be making errors. We don't know what the reason behind the errors are. That is what would maybe then need further investigation to ascertain if there's a malicious intent or if it's just, a mistake.
But I just want to come in there. We're running out of time, but there's one thing that I really wanted to know from you. The ACC is currently sitting on just over 9,300 votes nationally. If any of the big parties that you are currently disputing what their numbers are sitting at were to come and shop for numbers from you in order to form any kind of coalition, what would be the ACC's response?
I think the difficulty comes with coalition topics, right? You first need to make sure that the integrity of the vote is sacrosanct. Once you know that the numbers actually on the board are what they are, because what has happened now, Katleho, which is quite tragic, is that some parties have had numbers taken away from them, others have had increased numbers. But that, in essence, disenfranchises the South African citizen. So we cannot start talking about coalition things until we know that the numbers that are actually captured, the integrity of the numbers has been verified.
All right, unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for coming and giving us some of that clarity. That's Koketso Moloko from the ACC speaking to us there, and also admitting that a revote is quite extensive and rather going back to the capturing of the system and ensuring that those numbers are captured correctly. Well, let's go back to our main studio.